Hi, mystery writers. I'm Zara Altair, and this is Write a Killer Mystery. And today I want to talk about time in your mystery. You want to give your reader the time. So time is a crucial element in your mystery. It helps readers understand a sense of place, and it moves the story along. It has two different functions. Beginning writers can often overlook time as a crucial part of storytelling. Think of time as a setting element, and although your characters don't sense it through the five senses, time is always in the background, so make use of it. Mentioning time works the way other setting elements function in a story. It grounds the reader in your story. And that is so important. You want your readers in there. You want them in your story. So it works in two different ways, as I mentioned. So there's the time of day, and then there's the timeline of your story. So let's look at time of day. Time of day, first of all, just adds verisimilitude in your story. Is it morning, afternoon, evening, night? They all invoke different feelings in your reader. You can keep the description short with a quick mention and then augment that sense of time by adding light or darkness, and use weather and other setting elements combined with your time, like city streets or dark woods, to emphasize that time of day. And each detail you add gives your reader a sense of the time of day, what's happening in the story now. And by integrating other elements, you add to the overall sense of being in the story for your reader. That it's just so important. You want to keep your reader in the story. You don't want them wondering, well, the last scene was in the morning. Is this still the morning? Just give them a little hint. And time of day is more than just a bit of data in your story. It impacts your character and their moods. It's like your character's physical readiness. Are they energized at the beginning of the day or tired? And it enhances and reflects character emotions. They can be discouraged or enthusiastic, and that can be tempered by the time of day. And also, time of day emphasizes a sense of place, like the difference between a day scene and a night scene in the same location. So add your time of day elements in a brief sentence or two. It doesn't have to be long. You don't have to go into a long narrative description. Something as simple, he squinted into the midday sun. That's it. And all of a sudden, your reader knows it's midday, it's bright, and your character has to squint. It's that simple. So you can quickly ground your reader without taking away from the story by adding a long descriptive narrative. You want to keep your reader in the story, in that scene, as they're reading. So just little bits of that time of day can make the difference. The other part of time in your story is the elapsed time. It covers every event in your story from the beginning to the end, and whether your story takes place in one day or the traditional 3 days or over a period of months or even years, you want to give your readers a sense of that time progressing. And events can overlap in a story. For example, your victim is killed at the same time your detective enjoys her first day of vacation. But you want to have those time elements set in your head so it doesn't get confused in the story, because anytime it gets confused, your reader gets confused, and you don't want that to happen. You want them to stay in that story. So multiple suspects and their activities, keeping track of time is important, especially in a mystery, because where somebody was at a certain point in time can impact how your sleuth discovers the killer. So, and if you have a subplot or two, you need to know when all those events take place as well. So there are many little elements to the overall time sequence of your story, and you want to keep them all in place and in line, because if you don't track those events, strange things can happen in your story, like a character being in two places at the same time. And that's the kind of thing that readers like scratching their head and like, wait, I don't understand. And even you, as the writer, can get lost as you're writing, wondering if that scene happened 2 days ago or 3 days ago. So a physical timeline can help you keep track of the events in your story. So some writers use, butcher paper, a big long sheet, and just mark out the events. They tack it up on the wall or something so they have a sense of how that story progresses. Others keep a binder with a page for each event, and so if they add or subtract events, they can just add or subtract a page in the binder. And of course, here we are in the 21st century, and there's software also that can help you keep track of your story timeline. I think the most intricate and detailed is Aeon Timeline. It's a visual software that creates events, keeps track of characters, and also keeps track of subplots, which is very helpful. And it's visualized so you can see events in a subplot in relationship to the overall storyline. Very helpful. Another thing about Aeon is that it integrates with writing software. It integrates with both Scrivener and Ulysses, so you can see your timeline in the writing software and see the timeline in your story. So Aeon does have a purchase fee, so you want to keep that in mind depending on what your budget is. Also, Apple users, as I was getting ready for this, I was poking around, and Apple users can create a simple visual timeline with a program called Timeline 3D. It doesn't integrate with writing software, but it's simple to use. It's handy if you want to check any event overlaps, because it'll stack up events on the same day so you can see them in order. It's also a great tool. So whatever tool you use, you just want to have something, even simple, just draw a line and mark events on it so you can keep track of all the events in your story, because it's easy if you're writing a scene in a subplot to get lost in how that relates in time to the overall story timeline. So essentially what I want to say today is find the ways to use time in your story, because time elements add dimension and they're part of your setting. They keep readers in the story by giving them that sense of time. And it's not just the time of day in the scene, but the overall progression sequence as your story unfolds. All right, I hope this helps, and just remember to keep time in your story. And thanks for being here today, and I'll see you next time. In the meantime, write a killer mystery.